Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you all how to model a face in Maya. So I've gathered some references. I just took photos of myself, and here's a couple of my examples. So I'm actually going to go ahead and model the one without glasses, and then I'll add the glasses later. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop what I need. Something, maybe I go down to the neck, and then I'll press enter. I'm just using the crop tool. Okay. Excuse me. And then I'm going to select a front image. I don't like that one. This one works. The reason I don't like this one is because I don't like the lighting in it, how most of my face is sort of shaded in with a shadow, where this one has a little bit more highlights and things like that. And because I went to the bottom of my neck here, I'm going to crop this one. Okay. So another thing I want to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. Just click, drag, and to the new layer. And I'm going to press Control T for Edit Transform. And in this particular case, I'm just going to slightly rotate it so it looks a little bit more straight. So you'll see it a little bit tilted there. It's because I'm leaning on one knee when I took the photo, and I just rotated it slightly. Okay, so now I'm going to do image and canvas size, and I'm going to bring it to the little left arrow on my anchor point, and I'm going to change this to %, and I'm going to do width 200 and enter. And now duplicate this layer and Control A, Control C, that's select all, and copy, and Control Shift V, and I need to make it a little bit larger. .125 on width, and I'm just going to go ahead and see how that works, and I'll just crop this in. Okay, and now I'm going to just go ahead and start to use my rulers. Control R toggles them on and off, and using my rulers I'm just going to simply go to the top of my head, make sure that that lines up. I'm just checking my references, go to the eyebrows, make sure they line up. The eye pupil specifically, I'd say that's pretty close. The nose, the bottom of the nose, you could also do the bridge, and the bottom of the nose lines up pretty well. And the mouth is slightly off. And what I can do is run Control T. I'm just going to scale it a little bit larger and then drag down to match my references one more time. And I'd say that I'm holding Shift to keep the constraints proper. I'd say that's pretty good. And then one for the chin. I'd say it's close enough. So those are my references that I'm going to be using. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my first reference. I'm going to do Control A, Control C on my layer. File, New. and create. This should match the image. Okay. Now because I rotated it slightly, you'll see I have a little extra space in here. On my background layer, I could always just sort of do something like this. There we go. Oh, the image itself cropped in it with the white. That's why it's not coming through, I believe. Oh, there we go. Oh no, it didn't. Okay, so that's good enough because I'm only focusing on the head here. So I can go ahead and save this out. Control Shift S. And JPEG front face reference. Okay. And go back to this one, my side view, Control C, Control N for new document, can copy, and I'm just selecting the layer there. Control V, and there we go. I don't like this little section, so I'm just going to run a new quick little layer. It's kind of distracting for me. Just sort of paint that out. Alright. So that's good enough. I'm gonna Control Shift S, file save as, side face reference JPEG, and save, and OK. And in Maya, just like we did with the body, we're going to import these image planes. Now I have this in a new file right now. You could essentially model it all in the same scene. One of the things I would recommend, I'm going to delete this layer. Delete selected layer. One of the things I recommend doing is putting everything on a new mesh if you're going to do it inside the file. And add selected object. Okay. Now, with that being said, just because you can't see them doesn't mean it's not there. Whoops, not my preferences. The outliner. And in here, I'm going to clean all these files up here, these objects here in my outliner soon enough. But I'll do that after I model the face. Okay. All right. So I have those selected. I'm going to create a new layer. I can highlight both of them for this one. Create layer from selected. Okay, and then I'm going to hide those. And now I'm going to import my new using my little import image plane button here in my front view. front face reference, and looking through camera. And I'm just going to drag that back. And I believe actually in my Photoshop file, image, rotation, flip canvas horizontal. I'm going to resave that out so I have the face facing the right way. Okay, and now in here I'm going to import my side face reference. Okay, and looking through camera, and then just going to drag that out. Alright, so I've got both of my image planes here, and I need to start modeling. So one of the places I personally like to start is around the eyes. And also I like to include the eyeball because that really helps. So in order to model around the eyes, I'm going to show you a quick little way to create a pretty cool fast little eyeball. So I'm going to rotate, I'm going to create a sphere. I'm going to rotate it at 90 degrees. I'm going to bring it over to my eyeball. I'm going to put it right over it. And then scale it as needed. I'm going to guess roughly about there. And the first thing I like to do with this is I like to run a UV and cylindrical. Now in my UV editor, typically, tools, UV shell tool, and I'll turn on my little blue, and I'm going to do tools, smooth, and I'm going to run an unfold. Typically this always happens on unfolding this model this way. I'm going to select my arrow tool and I'm going to go to my edge. And in here, I'm going to highlight these edges that I know I need to be move and so. And now I'm going to run another smooth on there. And I'm going to run an unfold. Okay. I'd say that's pretty good. That'll work. And then I'm not too concerned about it yet, but you can just go ahead and scale it into size. You can even do something like this. You'll get a little bit more out of it. Typically I put my eyeballs on a separate UV map because the eyes are really important to have a lot of detail in. So it's always good to have a little more UV room when doing the eyes. It's not absolutely necessary. You could put it on the same as the rest of the mesh, but we'll get to that in a minute. And I'd say that's a pretty good size. And now I'm going to show you a quick little cool way to create an eyeball. So I'm just highlighting these here, so this will be like my pupil, and then this will be sort of like the color. And I'm going to do a mesh, or edit mesh. I'm looking for extract. That will detach those faces from the actual mesh. Then what I do is I modify and center pivot, and I rotate it 180 degrees. And I do another thing here with just these faces, I run another extract and modify center pivot 180. Okay. Now there's tons of different ways you could model an eyeball, and then you'll notice one more thing before I get further. Center pivot. Before I get further, I want to do a mesh display and reverse, and that will reverse the normals on that so they're facing the right way. And here I'm going to run a combine. Now there's a reason why I unwrapped it first. And merge vertices. And then just go ahead and double check that they all merged. Yep. And the reason is you'll see here in a second, and I'm just pushing these into basically the same exact spot, and then I'm going to combine. And highlight all the vertices, merge vertices, merge vertices. And then I'm just going to go ahead and double check to make sure that they merged well. Okay. So the reason I'm, and two more things I would like to do. You can do this using the bevel tool, or you could do it with the multi-cut tool. I create two little edge loops. I'm going to create one more right there. Ooh. Right around those parts, because it smooths a little bit cleaner. And let's turn wireframe on shaded off, and now we have an eyeball. So that was pretty easy. Okay, and then just to finish this off in the UV editor, you're going to notice, move UV shell tool, that I have this, and these don't need to be in the center anymore, but it's nice to have it nice and cleanly unwrapped. You'll notice this one's red. That's because the normals have been reversed. And I'm going to do a tools. I need to flip it. Don't remember exactly how to do it with the new UI. It should be in here, one of these. Merge, move and so. Best plane, contour, camera based, automatic. Oh, nope, don't want to do that. And maybe it's in here. I'm looking for flip. It's a little button that just says flip. If I can't find it this second, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll come back to it in a second, and when I'm done modeling, because we have a lot to do in here. Let me just see. I'll find it here in a moment. But for now, that's good. And just going to take one look. It's invert, no. Transform. Now, I don't see it here this second, but it's not a big deal. We'll fix it here very, very shortly. Alright. So, first things first. Modeling the face. And another thing is we need to move this up here. And right about here. Now, some of you might be saying, if you know a lot about anatomy, the eye actually has another sort of like a clear coat cover, and it actually has a little lens on it right above the actual eye itself. I'm not going to worry about that part yet, but I will go ahead and show you later. Now that I've got my eyeball in place, I'm going to go ahead and begin modeling the eye. Now the way I do it is I start with a cylinder, and I think this is honestly a really great way to model this. Some people just use a polyplane and start just modeling around the polyplane, around the reference image. Personally, I think it's confusing for a lot of beginners, and I think this is actually one of the best ways to do it. So I just moved it into place roughly, and under polycylinder I'm going to change this subdivision axis to 8. Oop. Or you know what, let's make it 12. I'm going to need the extra geometry. So 12. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete just the caps. Oh. Just the caps. Alright. The other thing I'm going to do is select this edge, extrude outward, and now I've got the start of my edge loop. I want to go ahead and show you a reference really quickly about what I'm talking about. Okay. So, right here, we have the topology of a face. And what we're clearly looking for is, you notice they're color-coded. The green area, those are the edge loops around the eye that we must have. I call this little light orange part here the robin mask, so we need this also. And this is so that when we get into deformation of the face, when we rig it, it'll deform properly. And then we have this one that runs around the sort of like a Batman mask almost, where you just have the mouth showing, and then the edge loops around the mouth, and then the nose in here. Alright, so this is kind of our goal. This is what we need to make sure we accomplish. And I don't expect everyone's to turn out perfect, but go ahead and do your best. And then now that I've got this part extruded, I can actually delete this part too. Now you could, I'm just going to do a mesh display reverse, but you could flip it 180 if you'd like. And here now, there we go. Oh, looks like I actually had it the right way. Mesh tools, mesh display reverse. Alright. So, with that being said, I'm going to start to line up my vertices on this with my image. And I'm simply just highlighting my verts, and I'm going to each part that I need it to be on. I could, to get a little bit better reference, iMesh, hide that for the moment, and you'll see these little lines that I'm following on my face. Okay. And again, we're creating this at low topology, so don't worry too much about exactly lining it up with the reference. This is a really difficult model to do also. Faces are really difficult. Alright. especially when just learning. Okay, something like that. And now here, just lining it up across the bottom of the eye. And then with this one, I'm going to start to follow sort of that little bag that's underneath your eyes. I could probably, or actually, you know what, I'm going to go to the bottom, it's kind of where that region starts, of the eyelid itself. So the eyelid kind of hangs a little bit lower here. Give or take. Alright. Okay. And I'm going to extrude again and scale outward. And you'll see that we're beginning to already start this edge loop that's wrapping around the eye. Okay? Alright. So I've got a little bit of detail in here to get me going, but it's still, even though I have it lined up properly in the front reference, it's still really just a flat polyplane, give or take. So one of the things I like to do is, holding right click, I'm going to switch to my vertex. I'm going to highlight this one on the very, very end. I'm going to press B to turn on my soft select. And I'm going to enlarge the brush. And in my side view, and I'm going to go about halfway, I'm going to start to pull this back. And this is a good time to turn on the eye reference because I'm going to need to wrap this eyeball around it. Alright? I'm going to hide it again. And then over here, I'm going to sort of drag it in also the same way to get the sort of eye socket that I'm looking for. Now you're going to see that right off the bat, okay, I'm going to turn on my eye again, and I want this to wrap basically right around it. Okay, something like so. Hold on. Just directly right around it. And I might have to pull some verts and things, but okay. And drag these in. Okay, right about there. Okay. And I'm getting a little technical here, but it's great to get a good start, especially around the eye socket, because the eye gives so much personality to any character. Okay. Alright. So that's good so far with the eye socket itself. I can run a soften edge on here, and it'll start to give it a little bit of a more friendly look. And I've got the start of basically my eyelids. Okay. Excuse me. So, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go and model in the mouth. Same thing, same concept. You'll see these edge loops going around the lips and the mouth region. We're going to go ahead and follow that same concept, and I find it easiest to start with a cylinder and rotate it at 180. Oop, or excuse me, 90. Alright. And just like with the eye, I'm going to create a mouth around it. And going to delete these. Oh, and before I actually do that, in my attribute editor, I'm going to change this to 6. Oh, not 60. Or actually, let's make it 12. Alright. And delete the caps. And then I'm going to run an extrude out from here. And then I'm going to delete these faces. And mesh display reverse. And now, just like with the actually, I'm only going to do this side because I'm actually going to end up mirroring it anyway. So this will go to here. This will come inward. This will go down. And I'm just going to follow my lips all the way around. And these two I want to bring closer actually, to get the little M there. That's what I call it, the little M where the lips are. And I'm just going to try to line this up as best as I possibly can. Whoop. And there we go. Now I'm going to delete these sides. I'm going to duplicate it, modify freeze transformations, scale X at -1, combine both of these, and then merge my vertices. Okay. Doesn't line up perfectly on this side, but that's okay because I'm going to only model half of the face, and then I'm going to flip it to the other side. Alright, let's go ahead and get a little bit further here and start to create those edge loops we were talking about. And now I don't need to keep that perfect sort of circle. Okay. I only need to worry about one side, like so. And I want to create one edge loop in here. I'm going to use the multi-cut tool. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to just slightly pull these ones outward to begin making the lips. And then in here, drag this forward. Okay. And in my vertex mode, select this one on the far edge, press B to turn on the soft select tool, go to about halfway, and then I'm going to start to pull that back. I'll turn it off for a second. And I'd say that's a pretty good start. And I'm actually going to delete half of it one more time and flip it again because I didn't have it exactly symmetrical. Combine. Alright. So another thing I notice actually is, and I'm going to turn on the grid, I don't have this as centered as I would like it to be, so I'm going to highlight all my objects and just kind of drag it over. And then this one, I'm going to drag, I think, back into place. Let me see. Because I want to try to match up both parts pretty well. And I'd say that's a pretty good start. I could even turn on symmetry. Bring this out a little bit. Okay, and one more time, turn off symmetry and extrude. And I'll take that up to about that point and then bring this in. And this is going to go kind of right around the mouth. And you'll notice that we're just kind of creating these spider webs around it. Oh, I did it again. Not having symmetry on. There we go. So try to remember to turn on symmetry so you don't have to do this so much. I'm doing it for visual reference for you. Otherwise I would just go ahead and model the half and then flip it. But I think it helps to be able to visually see both sides when modeling. I could also, instead of doing that, I could do Control-Shift-D, and that would be my duplicate with special. And you just have to make sure you set the -1. We covered this, duplicate special. Just make sure you have instance and parent on, and then close. And now anything I do to this side will automatically go and work on the other side. So anyway, and I'm just sort of matching this all the way around. That's all I've got for this part of the video. I'm going to continue this in the next video, and when you finally have a mouth that you feel fits pretty well, you can go ahead and combine and then merge the vertices. And alright. So you can also I don't know if I need the actual. Go ahead and match your reference from the side view also. Something like that. I'll bring this one in. And I'll zoom in really quickly. And I think that's pretty close so far. Alright, and then soften edge, and you'll see now we have the start of the eye and the mouth. In the next video we're going to cover the nose, and then we're going to start to flesh out more of the face here. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and inbox me.